In the Design Lounge brings together experts from retail, finance, manufacturing, business, and design to cover the world of business as it stands today. We're going to discuss in this board how to pivot, how to take advantage in this topsy-turvy environment, all over your favorite cocktail. I'm your host, Brandon Gasson. Welcome to In the Design Lounge.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
I'm Lisa Mann.
Yeah, I see. It's like perfect timing. We all made it. It's like amazing.
I'm very happy. In case you didn't know, there was drama around my making it on time.
Oh, well, okay. Yeah, no, I got a call and they were like, oh, yeah, we might not make it. And just, we were kind of going over it. And I'm like, watch, it's going to be all for naught. And then what happens, right? It's all for naught. So thank you for joining us. Episode 2 in the Design Lounge. Raise your glass to leadership.
Woo! Leadership.
Yes.
The world needs more
Cheers.
of it.
Yeah, let's get it started. Sponsored by Design Within Reach and Hardwired. My name is Brandon Gasson. I'm your host, and we have an excellent discussion. 3 amazing guests. Let me get started with our first guest, Kristen Becker, co-founder of Mutuus Studio. Kristen is an architect and creative, co-founded multidisciplinary practice, Mutuus Studio, in 2016. She leads the team's residential and interior projects, drawing from her 20 years of design experience and background in dance, theater, and film. She has collaborated with world-renowned artists on installations at the Highline in New York City, Times Square, Art Basel, Miami, and on multiple award-winning projects. Her studio won a 2019 Gray Award.
Oh, yeah.
Kristen, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, excited. Next, we have Linda Holliday, founder and CEO of Citia. Hi, Linda.
Hi.
Founder and CEO of Citia Content Publishing System. Linda's a serial entrepreneur at the intersection of media, comms, and tech. Her company, Citia, is the first and only system that creates snackable, measurable, multi-channel content for companies like Comcast, Viacom, CBS, and GE as they adapt to the new mobile media ecosystem. Also, she was the first designer admitted to the Wharton School. Linda, how you doing?
Good. Fun to be here. Thanks.
Oh man, super excited. I'm just really jazzed about this episode. And then last and certainly not least, Lisa Mann, CEO of THNK Marketing, which I love how you spelled it out. Lisa created THNK Marketing to help senior leaders of Fortune 500 companies and emerging businesses. So those being disrupted by the disruptors, right? To design strategies, programs.
And the disrupted. Everybody needs help.
Everyone needs help, and not just seniors. Absolutely. Profitable top line growth. Her passion is to build brands that become part of the fabric of culture. Over her 30 plus years of experience, she's held executive roles at some of the most iconic food brands in the world: PepsiCo, Kind Healthy Snacks, Kraft, just name a few. Her many accolades include Advertising Age 2015 Women to Watch, 2015 A-List Marketer Award, Adweek's 2012 Brand Genius Award, and 2013 Cannes Grand Prix. Oh my goodness, this is gonna be good. How are you guys doing?
Good thing.
We're good. Good to be.
Like I said, this is gonna be so much fun. Obviously, and it's so fun to like do these things and keep connected. I was actually talking like, the interesting thing is you guys know each other a little bit. This is a way for us, although we're disconnected, I feel like it allows us to stay connected. So I love these. But again, this is about leadership, right? How does your role be defined in times like these, right? It's easy to lead when the wind is at your back, but in times like these, and really what is a telltale sign of what type of leader you are. So to get started, in what ways has your leadership role altered since the pandemic began? Any of you guys can jump in.
The little one. So, we do daily Zoom call like this with the whole team, and we didn't used to do that, and so it's revealed like the entire workings of the company to people that didn't see that before. And I kind of started doing it because I wanted everyone to feel connection. And it's been really interesting and really valuable. I think it's a level of informality, intimacy, and transparency that, you know, I have never experienced before in a job. So that's been, you know, it was a response to making sure everybody felt okay, but it actually had a lot of business value as a side effect.
Yeah, one of the common things we've heard from a few of the other episodes, from the first episode, is that there's a level of realness that's been like, you know, engaged and kind of elevated, right? Because now, like, being in your home is so intimate, and now we're literally seeing in everyone's home. Like I was saying, I come from being a wardrobe stylist. Like going into someone's closet, like you have to trust me like no other. And now we've entered everyone's home, people that we just see at the office. So it's kind of removed that buffer. And so, like I said, kind of we're disconnected, but we're seeing people in a way we never have had before. Kristen and Lisa, what do you guys think? How has it changed for you?
I want to add, because I feel like that word intimacy is really interesting.
Okay.
You know, normally people would cringe at work to use the word intimacy, but I think what's happening besides Zoom, besides literally getting that camera into someone's house, I feel like the texting to make sure that people are connected, because keenly aware of people's kids, people's pets, people, you know, parents having to run and help their kids for work. There's a literal intimacy. I feel like there's more texting. I feel like at the end of the day, I look at, we're a Microsoft Teams company. So when we're on Microsoft Teams, I feel like I look at the list of people and I check in with people. Like, there's a little bit more of, are you okay? In that, like, I could tell today was a hard day. Are you okay? So that intimacy, and obviously I believe that it breeds better work. There's a literal closeness, even though we're not together.
In our studio as well, we're a small studio. So much of where our creative energies and conversations happen are in those in-between casual conversations. And so we began to do the similar thing where we recreated that, you know, morning check-in as if it's like you just arrived at your desk. A casual, what are you up to? Rather than a formal Zoom meeting, which we're all, or any kind of online meeting, which we're already accustomed to doing. But we were trying to recreate a little bit of that office culture. And to add on to that intimacy, everybody's situation is slightly different. And so there was this beauty in a way with that intimacy of acknowledging that, like, our intern lives with a mother that, so we don't want to have her come in at all, even masked. So we have 2 children that we're homeschooling. So our day is longer and everything is flexible, and acknowledging that everybody's scenario has a different roadmap for the day, and to just let that live in a different state per person, and to just acknowledge that we have to be flexible. I actually thought that was a really beautiful thing that's happening in breaking down that wall that's usually there between work and home.
I have to say, though, that even though we're all sort of shining a little light on the positive, I got to say, I miss an office terribly. I miss popping into other people's offices. I miss hallway conversation. I miss it so terribly. And I get so depressed when I think about how many more months we may still have of this, if not a year. So I do just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
I'm aware of the silver lining, but I am aware of what I miss.
Mm-hmm.
The poop lining.
Right. You know what though, but what I hear you guys all saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like, to your point, Kristen, especially, there's a level of understanding, right? Of just understanding, and almost like a heightened sense of EQ, if you will, that we're all going through this. And so we're just more accommodating, more understanding of what everyone's going through. Do you think within that, with that going on and how we are kind of more connected in that way, has there been an increased aspect of vulnerability? And is that something that the leadership role has taken on, or do you think they should take on?
I do think so. I think there's more vulnerability, but I think that there is a sense of still uncertainty of how long it's going to go on, and how much we're going to have to create different avenues for dialogue to keep the spirits up long term. I think what I do think is a takeaway, and especially as a woman that has children, I think there is often a line between your 9-to-5 job and then you're going home and have another job as a parent, where there's acknowledgement that this exists with or without a pandemic and smoke storms and everything in our world, like that exists with or without this. And there's a juggling act. And I think there is having that little bit of a window into everybody's reality. I think everybody is going to have a little bit different sense of just acknowledging that if something doesn't happen perfectly on time, understanding there's a little bit more wiggle room than perhaps before. I think that might be something that stays on.
Yeah. I think also just it's somehow enabled everyone to be more vulnerable. And I'll say, if you go by, gender norms, it's allowed the men to be more vulnerable. Because they are, I don't know, I can speak for myself. I'm always an open book if I believe, that I'm very open. If there's something going on, I'm whatever. I just did happen to do one of those leadership tests, and it says like whatever emotion I'm having, I share, and I'm like, yep, yes, I do. But a lot of men don't do that. So it's interesting to me. I'm watching the men that I work with. There is a vulnerability because we're looking inside their homes, and we're all, again, my kids are older, so it isn't about having kids, but my kids around, but men are struggling with, babies crying and your Zoom and my Zoom. And so there's a little vulnerability that I think is, again, one of the silver linings, even though there's the poop lining.
I know I can speak for myself from the perspective, from male perspective, is I've definitely, just with everything going on, right? I think like, again, it's kind of like, it's kind of even the playing field where we're all now in this similar position and we're all kind of figuring out as we go along. But I know just with everything, I've been way more willing to share. And I felt like there's been a heightened sense of responsibility to share. Right. And to, again, I kind of going back to removing that buffer of, especially from like a fashion lifestyle perspective, right? Everything's supposed to be pretty and curated. And it's like, no, nothing's curated at this point. And just removing that layer of, like I said, and just giving an added level of realness that I have been sharing more so. And I'm like, even to the point where I feel like if I'm not sharing that, there's a responsibility. Like I have to share that. Like it's a need, and that needs to be seen, whether it's from a male perspective, whether it's from African-American perspective, whatever. Like I feel like I have to do that. That is part of my role now that I maybe didn't have as much or didn't feel as compelled prior.
I think there's a really big vulnerability to young people, because, being in the office and watching Lisa or Kristen and how they behave professionally and overhearing their calls and seeing how they handle conflict, there's so many soft skills that get built by like having people model things in front of you. And, we know we can hire people now who have already done their jobs, but we're so worried about the people who need to grow into the next job. Like, how will they be able to do that without that kind of informal, constant, ecosystem that helps them all mature?
It's a really, really important thing that we're concerned about in the design, studio, where it's so much of the design is very intuitive. There's a response that happens not at a certain time. You could just be just shredding and sketching, and the process of design is nonlinear, and so it's very difficult to find a way to transfer that information. We've attempted, so one of the strategies for our young intern is to have a full hour meeting every morning, first thing, which is way more time typically that I would spend ever with one individual. And what it's done is that it's given me as slightly ADHD, where I'm like, squirrel, look at something and walk off, or just 5-minute check-in with someone, or that looks good and wander off. This has actually given me, like, I have to focus on talking about tasks, checking in on how they're feeling, and giving them almost like little mini lectures or mentoring on a sketch. And so I'm, I am giving more time to it. I still think, as Linda pointed out, there's this magic that happens in the office environment that is that's very difficult to recreate through a screen. And my hope is that this isn't forever, but that there is a way that we can still capture a little bit of that energy as we live through this.
I have a question, sort of layering onto that. I worry, so as leaders, I worry about morale. So I worry that the development that the younger folks in the company, that what usually happens through live mentorship, I worry that because of the situation that we're in and the virtual world, that there's an opportunity for, negative speak to happen in, like by level, that there's an there can be echo chambers of frustration that leads to negativity, that leads to morale challenges. So I worry deeply about that. And I'm curious, with all the leaders on the line, how you think about that and what to do about it in a virtual world.
I think some of that was already there because of these new tools like Slack and Teams. Because it's impossible to monitor all the channels as a manager or a senior person. So they're largely unsupervised. And I have a rule, this might sound a little harsh, but 20% of the people are upset at any given time. You just have to deal with it, right?
That's 80-20, right? The Pareto principle of being upset.
Yeah. And, so when you're in a physical environment, you can kind of monitor it better, right? And you kind of know who they are, and you kind of you just keep a better.
You can feel it.
Yeah. So I'm sure this is exacerbated that the company I'm running right now isn't so big that I can't read everybody. But in a bigger company, I could see that really, especially if there are layoffs and uncertainties and the kinds of things that generate a lot of anxiety to start with. Not that we're not surrounded by a giant red cloud of anxiety, we are. So the other thing I find that with that, though, if I can talk about me for a second, it's like you can't hide. I want mental health days. This is a lot to process for me. And so, I feel like I have to be available 24/7 because what can I say I'm doing? Nothing. Right. I'm not getting my hair done, obviously. I'm not here. So I don't have funerals. I don't have anything to say why I'm not here.
That was actually going to be my follow-up question to Lisa's question, was that in a leadership position, and even as you said, like, Kristen, you're taking a lot more time with your intern right now than you normally would. Linda, to your point, now that you're the one, even more so than before, supporting everyone else, how do leaders get support going forward in a time like this when the role is changing right now? I mean, obviously there's, right? The cheers.
A lot of it.
My good friend, Sancerre.
So more of these talks.
We could be drinking wine so we can whine a little more. But yeah.
I mean, that might solve it. That might solve it for sure.
Nah, but it does kind of make you forget about it for a while.
It does take a vineyard, not a village.
It does take a vineyard.
That's a good one.
That is a tagline. That is a tagline for sure.
There's a tagline for this.
For sure.
One of my friends who's also running a big team said he makes all of his people take a 2-hour break during the day.
Okay.
Makes them.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good idea. But this is the hard part too, because we have led during different eras, right? And as a manager and a leader, a lot of what you're trying to do is keep people activated, right? You want people to bring their best to work. And there are certain go-tos that you develop over time to keep people, you know, an energetic, in motion, working hard, you know, not goofing off. Like that's a part of the job. And so now it's just to tell people to take 2 hours off in the middle of the day is a little scary, right? I mean, it goes against, you know, my grain in terms of wanting people to actually, you know, we're a pretty young startup company and we're really lightly staffed and we're trying to get a ton of stuff done. So it's hard to say that, but I think I'm going to do it.
I think also the difficult thing about it is, as you guys know, you know, how you lead is individual to individual, right? So for some person, they might need 2.5 hours. And for some person, 30 minutes or 45 minutes is overwhelming. So it's like, how do I do something company-wide, right, at a time like this? So yeah, it is. I mean, this is why we have you guys on. So we want so you guys can answer all these tough questions. But we do have a game 1.
Okay.
So, yes, right? We have a game. So let's go into the first game. Here we are. Picture phrase game 1. This one's going to be fun. The second one's going to be a lot of fun. 5-minute game break in the design lounge.
Okay.
Picture phrase. Each picture combination represents a phrase. The first guest to call it the correct phrase wins.
Oh,
are you ready?
No.
Ready.
Well, we have to be ready. Okay, so the first one, I'll give you an example. What do you think this is?
I understand.
Yes, exactly. So
Lisa.
that is how it's gonna go. Whoever gets it right, we all have to take a drink. So everyone wins, really. Everyone's gonna win. So
That is so good, though.
that is a good one. That is
Cool.
a good one. So here's the next one.
Home computer.
Close.
Home office.
Home office. Yes. Cheers, Kristen.
That was so much easier.
That I
understand
That first one was a tough one, I admit.
That's clever.
Armchair.
Oh,
There you go.
But you're really talented at this, Lisa.
that's pretty good.
Right? So what is that, 1-to-1? Because the example doesn't count.
That's not fair. That was the best one.
That would be the tiebreaker.
Doormat?
No.
Doormat?
Out.
Out.
Matt.
Out. Yes, out.
Out.
Outdoor.
Outdoor carpet. Outdoor
Close.
rug.
Outdoor rug. Yes.
It is
Outdoor
outdoor
rug? Okay.
rug. Huh.
I don't know if that's a phrase myself.
That's not a phrase.
That's not a phrase.
You know, it works for
I have to
this.
drink twice for that one.
Exactly. Yeah. See, exactly.
I'm on to this game here.
That's all that matters. Really, it's not really about the games. It's about the drinks.
Everything but the kitchen sink.
Oh my goodness. There you go. There. Cheers.
There
Cheers.
we go, Linda.
You should have gotten that one, Kristen.
I know I was looking at my drink.
Right.
Everything
Priorities.
Mid-century modern.
Yes. Correct.
That was an easy one.
That-
Now here, and the last one.
Umbrella stand.
Yes, there you go. Thank you to our sponsor, Design Within Reach and THNK Hardware. That is game 1. Back to the
hiring for this.
what'd you say? I couldn't come up with these. That's way too much, for sure. Way too much creativity for me. The first one though, that I understand, admittedly, that was a really good one. I did like that one a whole lot.
Yeah.
So as we continue the conversation, as a leader in your industry, what has been the most effective decision you have made during the last 6 months?
Well, I can speak to that as an architecture and design firm. So we are lucky that we have our hand in many different cookie jars, so to speak, in the sense that we are not specialists in one typology of design, meaning office design, commercial design, but we've done a broad range of things. And as soon as this pandemic hit, we had an office strategy meeting and we said, all right, we think we're going to get calls for residential design far more than our hospitality. So we completely shifted to say we're not doing any active marketing to any office.
Gotcha.
We're not going to do any, retail or any of those kind of efforts in terms of marketing, and we're just going to focus primarily on residential. So we did a little pivot and focused on what it would be, and it turns out exactly that. It was just, and so we in a way became busier than ever because that's what we did. We shifted all our focus. So pretty much we have some hospitality work out there, but primarily we're almost 90% residential now. And so
How did your staff adapt to that quick pivot? Because I know speaking to other people, one of the advantages has been the necessity for speed, right? You don't have the option of going through, oh, okay, what are we going to do, and kind of debating and going back and forth. Like, you had to act quickly. Was your staff already prepared? Like, how did they respond when you were like, this is it, we're going all in?
When they work with me, I'm making them jump around. I think they're used to it, unfortunately. But I think everybody adapted. Yeah. Because I think in a small studio, you have a window into a full way the practice works. We take up the garbage, we pick up, paper if it needs to. We don't have, I've worked in large firms up to almost 200 people where sometimes you don't necessarily see into all the different various operations of a studio. But if you work here, we actually encourage that transparency and dialogue. And I think that really made it easy to pivot. But I think you have to set a culture of being willing to make shifts and changes as you go. And I think that, one of the things our studio did, and we're only 4 years young, where we would have a lot of partner and studio conversations and retreats that are like, what can we improve and how can we change and what's working, what's not working. We do a lot of self-criticism about how did it go? We call our clients after it's complete and say, let's have a kind of a debrief. What's going well, what didn't go well. So we work through it. And so we're used to making those shifts.
Linda, what about you? What about your company?
Well, to Kristen's point, we closed our office. So, in New York, there are a lot of landlords who are stretched pretty thin. And we're worried about not getting our security deposit back and all kinds of things, and not knowing how long this was going to last. And being a software company, we're all working on computers most of the time anyway. So, yeah. And I feel like I miss it. I loved our office. It was very sweet. And it was a second home to us. But on the other hand, I feel really light on my feet because we don't know what's coming, and we could be much bigger. It's like we are actually benefiting from more, digital efforts and more kind of companies getting serious about digital that did not in the past. So it's been good for our business. But not having to figure out, is the office going to be safe, or how will we need to configure it, et cetera. So I feel like I'm really glad that we have complete flexibility, including taking advantage of rates, rents coming down in New York, which I'm sure is going to happen.
Yeah.
So, and then thinking more about ventilation and, can people walk up to the office instead of take an elevator, so we have a lot of options that we wouldn't have had if we hadn't done that. So it was a little sad, but I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, our studio, we have 2 offices. So this is our main working space. And then we have a separate, almost 1,500 square foot space that is dedicated to fabrication of our lighting collection and our smaller objects. And because Saul, who's another partner in Mutuus Studio, primarily leads that effort, we decided to close that space and just move everything to our home studio, which we had already was kind of a garage, and being in Seattle, we had the space. And, I bet it will when we need it, we'll get it again. But because it was there and really unused for 6 months, we just felt the effort to keep and paying it. And even in this office, we're just not here that much. Didn't make sense. So we made a few swift decisions, but we feel good about it overall.
I learned I really took a page as soon as this hit in 2008. I was at Kraft, and during that financial crisis, the CEO pulled together the leadership of the company and said, do not waste a crisis. You know, we have to come out of this stronger. So
Yes.
I really feel like I just sort of like a robot did the do not waste a crisis. So what am I going to do? And it's that taking a breath. What we are best at is understanding consumer behavior. So let's take, if that's what we do best during a crisis, what's going to happen? And we did turn it into a business development opportunity.
Yeah.
But first we spent a little time thinking about, well, how does that impact our offering? So very similar to what Kristen said. Let's think first about our offering, but instead of trying to make it perfect, let's get out there and talk to people and develop business opportunities. And that's what we did. So it turned into a development opportunity. And it's funny, you know, on the one hand, a lot of companies did shut down and say, we're not going to spend any money, but there were a lot of companies in trouble. So they needed help. How do you stand up e-commerce overnight? So it's understanding where, again, always letting the consumer behavior be our guide, what behaviors were changing and what could be business opportunities, and then what companies to target.
Yeah, no, I've actually heard that. Never waste a good crisis. Make sure you come out of it on the other end. Let me ask you, I know, Kristen, you said you launched your company in 2016, but Lisa, you mentioned, I know for myself, I was like, okay, I was in business in 2008, 2009. So just living through a recession as a business person, I felt like, almost like I had an unfair advantage, if you will, because like you, not only have you lived through it, and I'm still here going on, but it's almost like that optimistic feeling like, okay, I'm going to figure it out. Did that help you guys out from a leadership perspective going through? It's like, okay, I've seen similarities. Obviously this is brand new, but I've seen similarities before and we figured it out.
I got to tell you, I feel like even though I knew in my heart, you know, never waste a crisis, this is the biggest thing I've ever lived through. So I definitely didn't have the confidence that it was going to work out, but, you know, I had the wherewithal to just say, keep marching forward. Like use the past as the, you know, wind at my back. But I definitely didn't feel like I got this all locked up. I just felt like I have to do something, and I know doing nothing is really stupid.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know for me, it was like, because this is so unprecedented, it was like at first, like I had no idea, right? I'm on the West Coast. So I was just like, oh, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. But like I said, I was like, okay, I've been through one, not recession, but I've been through one, you know, kind of like setback, major setback. Yep. So I'm going to figure it out. And then, like you said, kind of to your point, I was like, okay, I got to move ahead. I got to move forward. Even if it's, you know, at a slower pace, I got to do something. Linda, was that a benefit for you going through the recession, you know, around 11 years ago? Did that give you a perspective that you didn't think you would have?
You know, it's so strange because this situation is not evenly distributed. Mm-hmm. You know, so you know, if my family were healthcare workers, and if I thought my company was going to close, like those are huge, you know, problems I don't have. So I knew right away to batten down the hatches and to like halt any unnecessary expenditures, to check in on our strategies against, you know, a few scenarios. That stuff's not hard. That's not hard. But the kinds of problems that other people are facing, I think are they're not as solvable. You can't just like, you know, be a good leader if you lost your job and you can't feed your family and, you know, someone's sick, right?
So yeah.
So, but I think you know, we live in an era where experience has been kind of underappreciated for a long time. Like if you weren't young, you didn't know anything. It's kind of upside down. So I do think having been through a few traumas helps you like weather them without losing your optimism and your, kind of goalposts, right?
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
I think in 2008, I lived in Brooklyn, and I opened a solo practice. I incorporated in 2008. Good time to start a
Right.
practice. So I had, and I'm married to an artist. Big gold digger. And, and I started out my career as a dancer, big money there. So I'm used to really running on beans and rice and coffee. But so I think that, things weren't handed to me. I had to always work really hard. It is a shift in just going, okay, as Linda said, batten down the hatches, just go to this. What's my baseline? What's my break even? What are the necessities, and how do I look and not be panicky, but just to take stock in what the strengths are that every individual brings to the table, and roll with those strengths really fast and go for it and take some risk. I think risk is sometimes undervalued, of just saying sometimes you don't know. It's a leap of faith, and you just go for it and know that maybe that the universe will take care of you, if you will. But I do think sometimes taking risk is worth it.
No, definitely. How do you mitigate risk then at a time like this? Like, do you just be like, okay, and obviously I would imagine a lot of it is intuition and experience as well, right? So even though you're taking risks, again, you're using your experience, you're using your intuition, like, okay, this is where I know it's going to happen, or this is where if I'm betting it on something, it's probably going to go in the direction, like you said, we're going to be doing hospitality, let's do residential, because most likely people are going to be in their homes right now because they have to. So it's a hypothesis, right? It's an educated guess. It's not just, out of the air.
Right. I think that's a more important concept right now for individuals, even than for organizations. And I think it's maybe a weird gift to this young generation that this happened early in their careers, because when I started working, you could still kind of depend on having a job for your whole career where your income continued to climb. And if you were working hard and fairly, talented or just really working hard, you could continue to improve your position. And that hasn't been true for a while. Like the companies themselves are ephemeral, the roles are ephemeral, right? So I think, for creative people, especially who like Kristen and Saul, they do architecture, but they also make hardware and they make objects, right? And they do installations. So I think it's actually teaching people to have, in business, we would say multiple revenue sources, right? But to keep yourself juicy and to think about different ways that your talents and your interests feed your soul and your bank account. And I think it's a good thing to have under the hood early, because maintaining that kind of flexibility is, it's a superpower, I think, and it will serve you into your 90s. A lot of creative people work into their 90s. Look at Milton Glaser,
Yeah.
So, and they don't do that by living extravagant lifestyles. They do that by carefully choosing their work and making sure they feed their souls, because if they're not intellectually and emotionally engaged in their work, they wouldn't work till they're 94 years old.
Right.
Right. So I think it's like a lesson that I think's got to go all the way in if you're in your 20s right now, hopefully 30s and 40s and up there too. But I think it's a important sobering.
Yeah.
Definitely. Well, we have another game break. So this is game break number 2. So let's see who's going to take this one. This is our second 5-minute game break. Again, sponsored, designed within reach, THNK Hardware. We appreciate you most definitely. So this one's going to be fun. This is a little different. So this is Have You Ever? All right. So what I'll do is I'm going to ask the question. And if you have ever done this thing, all you have to do is take a sip of your beverage.
Okay.
So make sure you have enough. So
I don't have enough.
Okay, well, we'll see how many you have ever. We'll see. So have you ever hardwired a lighting fixture?
I have.
Linda, Kirsten, you have?
I'm from Michigan, Detroit. Okay, we know how to do everything.
There you go. Everything.
My parents were very not handy growing up. I was the handy one.
Does it count? My husband's handy. I've held the fixture.
Good
while
enough.
he's
Well, that's good
upstairs.
ast. I mean, this is in the design lounge. It's, where it's all about fun and drink. So that's enough. That's enough. We'll give you that one.
Lady manager.
That's
Okay.
my job.
Have you ever been part of a kitchen remodel?
I'd have to chug the whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Right? That's what you do all day. Especially
Yes, I
now.
have. Cobbler's son has no shoes. 3 years of our kitchen remodel. So yeah.
Definitely. Have you ever read a magazine while taking a bubble bath?
I think I have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like
It's
the
been a
best.
long time. Been a
Great
long
magazine, of course. Great magazine. But
only.
that's like the perfect time. Like that's one of the best pastimes to have.
Mhm.
It's been a while. I've got children that walk in on me, so it's not that relaxing.
So that's gonna be a post-COVID break for
There you
you.
Inspiration.
Have you ever installed a lock on your bathroom door?
Oh yeah.
Right?
I should get on
Right?
that.
You definitely, anyone, you should have that. Have you ever replaced a faucet and forgotten to turn the water off?
No.
Not me.
No one? No
No.
one? Okay. Have you repainted an entire room by yourself?
Oh yeah.
I've only started. I start
Last
and then I go, oh, it's
And then Jack
so
finishes it.
long.
I haven't done an entire room. No, not at all.
I'm finished, but I'm holding this lamp.
Right.
Oh, I paint and then saw my husband comes by and critiques all of the
There you go. That's something I would do.
But
I would
do it.
come by after the fact and be like, you didn't get
I
that
have
spot
the
right there.
ambition, but I can't. I can't. I started. I get all excited. I buy the paint, and that's it.
There
And
you
then
go.
I asked my husband, who did the light fixture, if he would do it.
There you go. Well, but picking the paint color is the hard part. So you've done that's the important work, for sure.
yeah.
for
Because
sure.
I have
Oh, yeah.
friends like you guys.
It's not as hard as when you repick the paint.
This is the one. Have you ever dropped your cell phone in a sink or toilet?
No.
I have.
Really? Would you like to?
That's
Would you
right,
like to
Lisa.
dive
You
into
and-
how
at
that
your
happened?
raves, at the rave parties. Those two.
Knock on wood, I
And
haven't
let's
done that.
just say it's a good thing that rice trick works.
Right? I don't know if I could actually. I don't know. My initial reaction would be to grab it. Then I don't know. I would stop, and then it'd be like, kind of like almost like double adjusting whether I'm going to get it or not. I don't know.
You have
It's
to commit to it. You're gonna
you
get
have to
it.
you have to just go all in. You have to go all in.
You don't have to go all the way in.
We're not all in. Have you ever fallen asleep outside on patio furniture?
Never.
Oh, I have.
I wish.
I know.
I
I can
honestly
fall-
wish that I could say that I have.
And
I
was
have fallen asleep
Never.
everywhere.
good
Everywhere.
That'd be bucket list, Kristen.
I'm gonna work on that this weekend.
Thank goodness for relatives with gorgeous houses and big pools and great patio furniture, and they invite you over.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can sleep
by and
anywhere.
try to
I can sleep anywhere. So thank you to our sponsors again, Design Within Reach, Channel Hardware. So we're getting to the end. What are some of the qualities you believe a good leader possesses?
I think, self-awareness, because the surprising thing about being a leader, I think, is that all your weaknesses show up on your team. So you try to fix them, but unless you fix yourself, it doesn't work. And it might take you a few tries to figure that out, but it's true. So you have to really address your own weaknesses if you don't want to see them multiplied in front of your face. So that's one.
I would say it's knowing that it's not all about you. It's about them. So I think I really, really believe in my job is how to make the people that I work with successful. It isn't about me. And I constantly ask, what do you need from me to succeed?
The irony is it's a service position more than anything else. You're in a service position and you're the leader, but you are serving not only your clients, but everyone that, you know, you work amongst, for sure.
And I would add, you know, a lot that you don't really get in, certainly in design school, class in leadership of how to run a company, a business, or how to do all of those. Those are really skills that you accumulate under good leadership or bad leadership. You can learn a lot from bad leadership. But I think for, you know, our studio right now, with this sense that we're all working often from home or in phases in and out of the studio, is trust. It's a sense of really trusting that your team is doing the work, and it might be at their own timeline. And I think that there's something nice about just going, yeah, we've got this task, it's clear. I'm not going to make you check in at 5 with an update. I trust that you're getting the task done, even if you choose to take a 3-hour break, go for a jog or do something, and then get it done at 10 o'clock at night. I tend to personally work like that, where I get up super early in the morning, then deal with the kiddos, then do a good chunk of work and meetings during the day, and then a little bit of time with the kids, and then work late to the night. My choice has been to have my day long, but I'm trusting myself and in organizing that I'll do it in that time. And same thing for the team. And so there's a real sense that you're letting them go, you know, and do their thing, that they're going to take a responsibility for being caretakers of the company and the vision in the time that they're off screen. So that's more of a, you know, thing right now with the quarantine, but it still applies when we're all in the office together.
Do you think that extended amount of time you have to do the work, that level of trust, is something that, like you said, is going to be beneficial when you get back? Because it's not like you don't have to be, you know, right now, it's not like I'm working 8 to 5 or 9 to 5. It's like I'm working 6 to 8 before the kids get up, and then I'm, you know, teaching them for a little bit, and then I'm working from 12 to 2, and then when I put them down, or I just need to get a drink and get away, then do you think that extended work, like almost extended work area or work time, is that something you think you're going to try to continue once you get back? I mean, obviously it's not going to be exactly the same, but that level of trust, will that carry over?
My hope is yes. I mean, my hope is that I like people to not micromanage my time and feel like, oh, you didn't come in exactly 9:01. I never want that feeling. And so I think, yes, it's extended to our studio, where we trust if you're a little later in the day. I mean, hey, like, let's not be total slackers like that. There's something, you know, it's like we have to be accountable, and the work shows. I mean, I've got enough experience in the design profession to know what 8 hours of work looks like versus kind of, you know, faking it. So that is something where we have to also trust our own abilities to gauge and judge those, that work delivery that's happening each day. But there is, I think we have to trust, and I think we have to, even in a more what we would consider back to normal office environment, to trust as well that the work is getting done and that you release some control in that regard.
So I just got back from my first post-COVID business work offsite. So,
Really?
and it was the leadership team. So there were 6 of us overnight at someone's house on Cape Cod. And it was for us to become a closer leadership team. And we talked about, you know, what values do we want to have, and how do we then share those values with the rest of the organization. And trust was number one, not just between CEO and staff, but it was laterally, like, so it was every way, matrixed. How do we literally create a culture of trust? How do we create a culture of trust? It's the only way to be successful. It came up so many times throughout the, 2 days.
Interesting.
Yeah, no, as obviously said, a level of empowerment I would imagine the employees then get as well from that. Last question, of all of these great answers, what are the steps to sustaining leadership at a time like this of financial uncertainty, and civil unrest?
Having a heart. You know, we talk so much about the head of leadership, meaning, you know, literally and figuratively being the head of something, but also all of the business decisions, that weigh on, and I do believe, leaders do have a lot on their shoulders, but I do think it's heart that will ultimately prevail. And I've always felt that. And sometimes, environment, because I've worked in big Fortune 50 companies, they didn't like when I would use the word heart. So now in my own company, I can use the word heart. It really is about heart. And I think that that's what's been revealed. It's head and heart.
I love that.
I like, I think I'm doubling down on what I'm doing for other people, which is tiring because just, having to pick up a lot of my own chores and whatnot. Let's face it, that was not a part of my schedule in the past. So that's been humbling in empathy creating. That's been important. But I'm introducing people. I have a friend who's an author who has a really important book out, and I'm helping him. Kristen Becker. It's called In Search of a Better Reunion, and it's a really important book. And I'm helping him as an unpaid publicist to try and get the word out and help him get some better he's doing a great job, but even get him more speaking opportunities. I'm connecting some people across nonprofits with people who want to give their software away, things like helping other people find jobs. I think, none of our problems are so big that if we didn't all pour ourselves into fixing the little things around us and having them accumulate, that they wouldn't mostly go away.
Yeah.
So I think in times of a crisis, it's just important to just continue to push your optimism and your network and your ideas and your support out there at people and hope they do the same.
Yeah, that's so good.
Right. And I think for me, it's move with a really clear intention and think holistically about how every step that you've taken impacts the artist community, the brands that we choose to push in terms of chairs, tables. We look to the artist community that we can support, looking with diversity, and just moving in a very methodical, intentional way. I think will create, for us, a really dynamic and inspirational creative environment.
Absolutely. Well, man, you guys have been amazing. Thank you so much. Cheers to you.
Cheers to you.
Cheers to everyone.
Thank you for having.
It was so fun.
Yeah, I know. We need more of these with the drinks for sure. So everyone, this is the end of episode 2 in the Design Lounge. Again, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Design Within Reach and Hardwired. Plus, of course, our amazing, incredible guests, Kristen, Linda, Lisa. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you. We learned a lot. Tune in next Friday, October 9th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time as we air the final episode of In the Design Lounge 2020. This is going to be a toast to growth and innovation. So this is going to be another killer episode. All the episodes can be found on graymag.com and Gray's YouTube channel, and will live on forever. One of the things we've been talking about, this information that you guys have been given, this is not COVID exclusive. This is going to be ongoing. So there's some of the tips and tricks and strategies. These are going forward. We're creating the new normal. So thanks again. You guys can like, share, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Cheers.
Thank you, Brandon.
Sure.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Everyone knows Linda, and I love everyone Linda introduces me to.
I do too. I feel like we could do a little 6 degree of separation between Linda and everyone.
Exactly.
It sounds like maybe like 2 degrees. That's I always say, because I'm in the Northwest or from the Northwest. I always say it's like 2 degrees. It's like really like 2 degrees of separation here. It's not the whole Kevin Bacon 6. It's like literally maybe 1.5. Especially if you're in any type of creative environment, it's like we all know each other.